Welcome, folks, to the, are we in September 4th, Aries working group call. This is Hyperledger call, and so the antitrust policy and the code of conduct are in effect. I don't know why this says move next to those. It's been a typo, but we are glad you're here. Don't actually see James here today, so I'm gonna. You're welcome to add your name to the list of attendees. Anyone new here today, or would like to? Anyone like to reintroduce themselves? All right. Are there any announcements? We have Aries BBS Go has been created. Any other announcements that we should have on our list but don't? Any release status or work updates to share this morning?
Things keep moving along with Occupy. We'll probably do the 101 with just continued evolution of Occupy. Things keep going well.
Awesome. Any other updates?
I guess I should.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I think I talked about this last week. Aries Asian test harness got updated. I think it was after. Anyway, it's now got a new style page. The Aries interop.info page. The Aries VCX job had not been working on the website, and Aries dash interop.
Aries dash interop.
I think. Yeah, I think that's it.
There we go.
Yeah, so we've got the new page. The Aries VCX results had been there was something wrong with the GitHub action that was failing before it was uploading the results to the Allure repository of results. So that's now fixed. And so we're now getting regular results published that are up to date. So that's good. Lots more tests. There's little things wrong in Credo. I believe there's only 2 issues. One issue would fix the vast majority of the ones in there, so we get a much higher rate once that one error gets resolved. Shell's working on a new AIP or a new Credo back channel that has a number of updates to it. So much better results, and so we should see. I haven't looked at the VCX to Occupy yet. Haven't had time for that, but I suspect we could probably clear up a bunch of those too. So good progress there.
Cool. Awesome. Any other updates? All right. So, on the agenda today, we have the next phase in our discussions about the future of Aries discussion with some stuff to report back from our investigative work last week, and then discussion of what's next. Any adjustments we want to make before we get into the agenda? I'm going to nuke this because we merged that and discussed it last week.
Actually, can I add one more announcement, Sam? Sorry about this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jumps back from before. Did TDW spec moved to diff yesterday? So if you now go to the old location of the BC Gov GitHub pages, it just says, hey, it's moved, here's the link. And the full spec and the repository is at diff. We'll begin regular meetings a week tomorrow on did TDW, and yeah, move forward there. We now have a Go implementation, so we have 3 implementations completed, and work on that on Akamai integration is beginning. Sorry for missing that, but I realized yesterday's was just a bit of administration, but it is rather significant that it's moved out of a single organization into a neutral site for the development of the did method.
That is good news. Which license is it under at the diff? TDW, I mean.
It's uh, the code is under Apache 3. It'll be under W3C mode.
Cool. Okay.
We
So
want it so it's available to move to W3C.
okay, right,
It's only the spec that's moved.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Excellent news. Okay. Anything else, Stephen? Before I'm teasing.
Sorry about that.
No, that's awesome. Glad to hear. Okay, so we have a future of Aries discussion, and then we need a discussion of both what's next there and then other things that we need to work on in advance of that. Stephen, would you mind covering the changes that have been made since last time?
Um,
It was mostly
sure.
just clarifications based on our discussion.
Yeah, clarifications. The plan for RFCs is going ahead, namely leaving them in a frozen state, and then a session to determine which ones and how to move the relevant RFCs to DIDCOM, and then the planned move of AIP to Open Wallets, the group we're proposing at Open Wallet. So that's that update. One change that is kind of new that I'd like to bring up, but in discussions with Sheldon, this seems like an obvious thing to do, but I would like to bring it up. When I looked at OWF, it shows that there is the Bifold project, Bifold Wallet project, and under it, or as a repo within the Bifold wallet, is the mobile wallet test harness. Shell points out, let me know that it is actually the mobile wallet test harness is actually supposed to be a separate project, independent of Bifold, obviously working closely with Bifold, but available for testing other wallets. What we thought would be a good idea, and that's what I want to raise here, is that the Aries agent test harness be moved over as the agent test harness, which we also talked about, but rather than making it a separate project, combining it with mobile wallet test harness. And then since we're into a testing project at that point, Akrita could also go there. And so rather than being a repository within the Akamai project, we actually put Akrita into this combination of mobile wallet test harness, Aries agent test harness. And so we have the behavior-driven testing and the load testing capability within a single project. Does that all make sense to everyone? Any objections to that?
I think it makes sense to me. However, at the very least, I feel like the mobile and the agent testing harnesses should be together with some, like, if they're able to be combined, I think that would be ideal with flags that you could use to target one or the other or even both.
At this point, they would be one project, two repositories.
The code approaches
AAT
are fairly different between the two.
Well, AATH has been demonstrated to use mobile, so you can use it as a mobile. there's been discussion. We had a meeting a while back about having a DIDCOM based back channel. And we talked about it in general terms, but in fact, I think when we really got into it, we realized we really just need that for a mobile agent. It would be nice to be able to run a headless mobile agent and have it be a agent in the Aries agent test harness. And that would be possible. So you've got possibilities there, but fundamentally the mobile wallet test harness is more about, I think Shell jump in here because you know this far better than I, but it's designed to allow you to exercise a mobile wallet, meaning that you use simulators and services that allow you to execute test mobile wallets, including on different hardware platforms and things like that. So it's a different focus.
Yeah, and the mobile wallet test, the mobile test harness also allows you to run, specific tests against your wallet in a development and a continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline, which AATH wouldn't do right now with its mobile capabilities. So that's the main reason there. It's not that in the future we couldn't find a way to combine these things, and I think the lines may get blurred as we go forward, but in the short to medium term, I don't think that's going to be the case.
And the point of putting them together allows the lines to get blurred. I think that's the goal.
Yeah.
Just a matter of interest. So last week we actually put AATH into the Akapai release pipeline. Is that not what you mean? You were saying AATH wouldn't go in a release pipeline?
It would for an agent, regular agent testing, but not if you're going to test a mobile device automatically in a CI/CD pipeline.
Okay, I was thinking
Right
you
now,
could do a simulator. I was thinking you could do a simulator that executes a headless, what amounts to a headless, because it uses a simulator, but maybe not.
That's a little difficult. We tried that.
Okay.
That's fairly difficult. Yeah.
All right. Surprising. Anyway, I think it makes sense to put the three together.
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense, and of course none of this is set in stone. Meaning, if we get smarter later than about something, then we can of course make adjustments at the time.
Yeah.
But
one other thing is putting them together. As I said, it's a single project, which means administration and governance, meetings, wiki page, but they remain until they evolve in whatever way we want, but they remain separate repos and are used as they are today on day one. So it's not like we're mashing them into a multi-purpose repo or anything like that. We're just, from an administrative and governance perspective, putting them together. And I think, Shel, from what you're saying, and that we've been having meetings that included all three anyway.
Yeah, the monthly test harness, Aries test harness meeting does include those three frameworks in our meeting. So yeah, we've been doing that for 6 months or more now with three of them.
Yeah. Cam, I see you're here. Any comments from you on that? You and Alex did the bulk of the work on Akrita. You're happy with that?
I'm fine with them being combined.
Okay. Good, thanks. So I will, I think I've made tweaks in anticipation of that, but I'll redo it in that Google Docs that you're looking at right now.
Whoa. I have a Zoom issue.
You have a Zoom issue, I would say. 500.
That's not what I want to do.
Two minuses.
Oh my gosh.
What have you done?
Hang on. Let me try to fix this. Uh,
Are you used to using computers?
you'd think, right?
Ouch!
Dude. Okay, what in the
I just thought he was showing off his head there. That that face palm.
Yo, yeah,
Exact-
that's and I have a separate avatar with the facepalm just for moments like this. Okay. Wow. That was spectacular. Look, folks, I'm back. Okay, sorry. As you were saying, Stephen, the document that we're looking at. Um,
Yeah,
so
I think I showed this last week. So all of the documents, all of the items are there. In source control down here, I've moved, sorry, up just a little bit back. Here is Akapai and the repositories that would travel with Akapai. Akrita is not there anymore, and VCauthn, I think I talked about this, but VCauthn OIDC, which is a BC government repo, we're wanting to contribute at the same time to OWF, so it's there. And then in the same section, lower down under Aries Agent Test Harness, you'll see Akrita now included, and I'll add to the project description Akrita in there. There's the Aries Agent Test Harness.
right. So we probably ought to retitle this document so that it covers all of the since all the project
Yes,
proposals
actually,
are
you're
in
right.
here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of doing it all together, which is perfect, right? This is good.
So note all of these go into separate PRs.
Yes.
So
Although
each of
I
these
think
will
there's
be
some
an
value in
individual PR.
highlighting. I think there's some value in highlighting to OWF that like this is all being done in concert.
Yeah, the way you've been involved in tax and talks and TSCs and so on. These will be submitted as a series of PRs. There will likely be a TAC meeting where we present and provide context on the overall and the individuals, and then they look at each PR.
Right.
Shell, you got Shell's hands up.
Well, I was just curious if it's possible for repos to belong to more than one project in OWF. Is that not can't happen?
It doesn't really make sense, and because really the project is just as I mentioned before is the administrative and governance aspect.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So
And there's nothing.
but it
there's
is the
nothing
case that
stopping- or I was just
it
gonna
is
say
the
that
case that say things like
there's nothing stopping
things like
multiple projects from working on the same repos.
absolutely, they can have the same
Right,
maintainer
right.
set. Anyone can contribute PRs to any of them, and so on and so forth.
I think within the organization of OWF, they want one sort of project to be the main administrator of it, but yeah, the cross collab thing is like no problem.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Like the ASCAR one is interesting because I really think it belongs completely separate. In that it just is at a lower level than all the rest and has used in a number of places, even outside of Aries. I believe people are using ASCAR for different things. So it does not fit as within Akapai as just another repo in Akapai. That doesn't make sense, which is why it's being proposed as a project in and of itself.
Yes, which makes tons of sense. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is really
Okay.
good. So this doc needs a little bit of work to kind of tune stuff. You also mentioned, I think that Tracy was willing to be the tax sponsor.
Yeah, the only reason I didn't put her name in, so I realized this section was, I started asking around at OWF yesterday. Tracy said she would, but I then asked her, have you read the document? Because I don't want to put your name on something you haven't read yet. So I'm just waiting for her to answer back
Sure, that
on
makes
that,
sense.
and then I'll put her name in. But Tracy has volunteered to put her name in as the sponsor, tentatively.
So as the process here, this doc has a little bit of cleanup based on our discussions,
Yeah.
and then this doc turns into a series of PRs.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Each major section here becomes a PR.
Right. And then the OWF then meets and discusses and offers feedback and or votes on stuff. Right.
Eventually votes. Yeah.
Right.
Offers feedback. We might go back and forth. Usually it's 1 to 2 meetings, then they have a vote and we go forward.
So
or
and then
back.
I'm anticipating there's like a go date where like it actually happens.
As soon as the vote happens, it's done, and then it becomes a
An
how do
execution
you
thing.
execution thing, marketing announcements and so on, and figuring out pipelines and moving repos. And having just moved a repo, and especially one that has GitHub pages associated with it, I think the way we'll probably go is move the repo and then replace the existing repo with a manual redirector instead of an automatic, just so you know. But we can talk about
control. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just say, hey, move it, because the GitHub pages just gives you a 404, and so anything that relies on a GitHub page doesn't work, which is a pain.
It's the TAC, right, that votes.
Yes, TAC. Yeah.
So the process looks like here, just sketching it out. So planning and submission, which is what we're doing now. And then there's the discussion, the approval, and then actual execution happens here.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said marketing and adjustments, but marketing pipeline adjustments. There we go. So we are here. We are soon to here, and then this will take a couple of weeks. One of the things that I want to, so this is work that will actually sort of need to get done that's mechanical. One thing that does take some planning here is marketing. And the two people that I want to get involved, and I think we're at the stage to begin this, so that we can have it ready by the time the actual discussion approval happens. Marketing can happen it's listed like third here, but it can happen in parallel to all the mechanical adjustment stuff there. So this is we also need meeting adjustments. And then the marketing can happen, in parallel to all of that. And so the two people that I want to work with, that I'm going to ask to be involved, is Helen Garneau, who has helped with a bunch of the Aries marketing stuff, as well as Brian Bellendorf with the Open Wallet Foundation. He and I have talked some, and he has ideas on the sort of the marketing explanation aspect of this. So we're talking about this in the trenches, right? And but there are lots of folks that are in the periphery of Aries that are not regular attendees of the meetings, and even at the business level, that will want to understand what's happening. And so being able to prepare and share some explanations of what's happening and why, and the benefits, etc., I think are really valuable there. And so I think working to prepare those sorts of materials in advance will help us to explain what's going on, so that when folks say, hey, what's going on, you can actually point them to stuff that actually does a good job explaining it. So my plan, unless anyone is like super excited and wants to be directly involved in the process, in the beginning of the process, I should say, is to work with the two of them, and then we can bring to this meeting the proposed pieces that we use to explain this, the proposed marketing pieces, so that we can review those things here and offer feedback and suggestions on the creation of those marketing materials. And I'm happy to drive prep for this. Any comments, volunteers, thoughts, corrections?
I am terrible at initiating those. I can help with adjusting, going through content, even creating content if you tell me what to create. So good at that, and happy to help. And the second thing to mention is we have not, and it's kind of been deliberate, not done a blanketing on the 1.0 release of Akapai. So we sort of combine these, but that should be mentioned as well.
On the timing, Stephen, you mentioned some sensitivities around BC Gov and the timing because of election season. Is there some explanation that you can offer there as to BC Gov's interaction with things?
Yeah, so when there's an election in British Columbia, the government, the bureaucracy is not permitted to make announcements of any type, lest they be perceived as marketing for the in-power party or anything like that. So basically, there's a moratorium on announcements that relate to BC Gov. And so with an election coming up in October, we are more or less, I shouldn't say that because I don't work for the government, but the government is not able to make announcements of any kind. Alex,
so when does that end?
Alex, do you know more about that? The tricky part is that if the election is a minority government, then it could actually extend out beyond the election. So it not only begins at a certain time, which is in the next week or so, but extends out possibly beyond the date of the election. I believe the election is the 10th of October, something like that. I should know that. October 19th is the election day, and possibly beyond.
Okay. So it's unlikely that starting next. It's not unlikely that we can manage all of this to land, particularly with discussion and approvals and all this stuff prior to then. So we're planning for post 19th of October and maybe beyond.
There's no reason we can't make any other comments or anything else. It just means that the BC Gov cannot be mentioned in them. That's all.
Yeah, yes, except that that's really unfortunate if we're going to talk about an Akapai 1.0 announcement, right?
I know, because of the involvement. But
it's kind of like having a party without being able to recognize like a major contributor to progress of what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So we can see how it goes, and we may need to make some more timely announcements if stuff happens in particular. But we need to we can think about that from a marketing perspective because we don't want to like blow past this not being able to mention BC Gov in any way, but we also obviously don't want to foul like requirements on the government, right, to make that happen. So we'll just need to be mindful of that. That's why I was asking. Any other details that would be helpful to understand there from a marketing perspective? Okay. So we're here, and I believe we're on the cusp of moving to the PR phase of this. And then we have the discussion and approval and the TAC voting stuff. and then the actual execution of things. And I will get started on the marketing aspects of that. I'll get together with Helen and Brian
Awesome.
and anyone else who's interested, and then we can make that go. Any thoughts, feedback, corrections? I guess I could like qualify this just a little so that we can update this as we go. Let me. And I think that a lot of this stuff will not necessarily need heavy discussion here, now that we actually have the plan that we want to execute. The other thing to bring up is that when we make these PRs, we're officially proposing it as an Aries project to do this thing. We have, in the entire history of the Aries project, never actually had a vote, in the sense that we had something controversial and it like came down to like tallying votes. And so there's a little bit of an open question around how we manage process of doing this. And what I propose we do, and I propose this to be clear as sort of a voluntary community leader of the Aries project, never having been elected or given any actual authority. What I propose we do is we seek for comments or folks that don't like the plan that we're talking about, and that are opposed to us doing this, to see if we can discuss and figure things out to resolve any objections that exist. And that's the simplest process. If no one objects, then the process of actually taking a formal vote doesn't actually need to occur at all. Which is how we've resolved basically everything in the history of the project. Now, if we need to, because there's really controversial stuff and really conflicting opinions, we can definitely figure it out. But lest we go figuring out a whole bunch of stuff for wasted effort, I think that's what we're actually pursuing. And so, Stephen, what I think we probably need to do is give the docs a round of updates so that it represents materially what we plan to do, and then circulate it on the mailing list and in the chat channels and in meetings and everything else, and basically do a call for objection. And in that way, anyone who does not like the way that this is going has an opportunity to share their opinions, views, objections to the plan, and then as they arise, we can then work to resolve them. If there are no objections within a reasonable amount of time, and I think that reasonable amount of time needs to involve enough, time for folks to see it on the mailing list, et cetera. So there needs to be at least a week of high visibility to the doc itself in our community. Then I think we can proceed without worry that that we're acting not in I'm not Englishing well today. Not with full consensus of the group. Any thoughts? Better ideas?
That sounds really good, Sam. I can have the documents updated and that posting to Discord and the mailing list done today.
Cool. Is anyone objecting to the objection process?
I object. It's a great idea.
I object to your objection. No, this is great. Okay. So, I've made this plea before, but if you feel like you're in the minority and you do object, but you don't really want to speak up, please do, because that's how we make these things better. Whether you want to do so in the meeting or not, or send a DM or an email or whatever, please do speak up. We care. We want to hear. It's together that we make things great. And so please do speak up if you do have an objection there. And this includes anyone who's like listening to this recording, who even if you can't regularly attend meetings, we want to hear from you. Okay, so here's the process, Stephen. If you have the doc updated, then we can go ahead and circulate it. I will go ahead and start on marketing. so that we can get that ready, and those things will come here for review, um, before those are acted on. I'm recognizing my lack of actual authority in the group, um, and so let's do it that way. And so based on the next little bit, we'll be able to see that and approve it and move those things forward. Any other comments on the future of Aries discussion and everything else? We will be careful with carrier pigeons, Colton. I appreciate the nod there. Um, okay, so the next question that I had today is, what do we do here in this group in anticipation of or in preparation for these changes? There's still work to get done. There's still code happening on all these projects. There's still things that are occurring. And so what are the topics that we need to continue to address as we move this process forward, as part of it? Some of the things I want to recognize that we want to do as a community might make more sense afterwards, and we can decide that, and we can put that and offer that as a future to do for future efforts, et cetera, to happen. But the transition of repositories happens really fast, which means there's no real need for code to pause in any way during this process, and that can continue to be worked on as it has been. So what do we want to use our time in this meeting to discuss? And if it means that we have fewer things, and we are just make those coordinating things happen, and then we don't necessarily try to fill our meetings, I'm totally okay with that too. But if there are things that we definitely need to spend time on, both because they're urgent, naturally, or if they will help facilitate this process that we're talking about, what are those topics that we want to discuss and spend time on here in this meeting?
Um, the big thing we're doing in Akapai is, as I mentioned, is in general the broader did support did and other decentralized registry support, and so really nailing that down so we can use Octopi with anything. There continues to be work in the plugin, particularly the OpenID for VCs. So that plugin, and generally trying to work on still getting to the next, where the next privacy preserving verifiable credentials will be.
Right. Which is great work. Which of those translated into topics that we should address here as opposed to in an Occupy meeting?
Yeah.
That's kind of my question there.
Yeah. To me, the most important thing is interop across the different things, keeping up with where each are in interop, and what progress is being made to enable that interop.
So we have out of band invitations and unqualified DIDs as a thing that needs to get done, right?
Yeah.
And so those are things that we need to keep moving forward. ideally they're done by the time we transition this, but it depends a little bit on the speed at which we're able to move projects and deployments. So I'm going to add community coordinated updates here. We have notes on those down below. I'm going to re-summarize this to okay. If we don't have things to discuss here, that's okay, and we can shorten our time here to match the necessary discussion items as they occur. We don't need to spend time in a meeting for the sake of a meeting. Quiet indicates either pondering or no items. So let's do this today. We've reached an important thing today where we're about to propose or look for disapproval of the doc, if there is any, and then we will go ahead and move forward with making this actually occur. And then we will continue to plan meetings. Please do bring topics if you want to discuss them or there are important things to move forward. And in the meantime, we'll not seek to extend meeting times unnecessarily to make other things happen. In that way, we can all just be about the busy work we're doing. And then if there are topics that we need to discuss, we'll absolutely work to make them happen. So that we can move the work forward and we can prep in any ways necessary, and keep things rolling. So with that, any other discussion items today? Okay. Hearing nothing, I will leave off with an encouragement that as we circulate the proposal for the projects and calls moving to the OWF, that we can to please take a look at that and offer suggestions, criticism, improvements, etc. And then that will help move the work forward. And with that, wish everyone a fantastic week. And we will catch up with you in other places, of course, and then in our next weekly meeting. Appreciate everyone being here today.
Thanks, Al. See ya.
Thank you.